Good morning. Today we are doing our last objective in Unit 5, working with those algebraic expressions and equations. Today we are doing CO43. I can solve two-step equations. So here's the thing. It's doing what we've already worked on. We've already learned the adding and subtracting. We've already learned the multiplying and dividing. Today, we're going to learn how to do both of them in the same equation. So it's not anything that's really brand new. You just have to really pay attention to the order that we do it. So it's super important that we pay attention because there is a specific way that we have to solve these problems. So don't just jump in and say, oh, I know the multiplying and dividing and I know the adding and subtracting. We have to follow a certain order. So solving an equation with two steps is merely building off the last two objectives and combining the two ideas. So we have to pay attention to how we combine them. As at this point, we move away from fact families since there's more than one operation in the equation. And because our equations are more complex, using logic alone is difficult. So remember what I said with those earlier ones, it's really easy to look at them and say, oh, I know that n plus 5 equals 13, n must be 8, because 8 plus 5 equals 13. Did it all in my brain. Please stop talking and just listen. Okay. And I said, that's great that we can do the mental math with it, but we need to know how to do it the algebraic way. We need to be able to solve for that n. Now's the time where we have to just do that method. We can't use the logic. We can't use the fact families because it's too complicated. So we're really going to pay attention to how we do that, doing the opposite operations. In the equation above, 5n plus 7 equals 32. We see there are two operations. When we have the 5 next to the n, it means we're multiplying, and we know that this means we're also adding. So we have two operations there. Put the Post-its away. The opposite of addition is what? Subtraction. And the opposite of multiplication is division. So we know what operations we're going to be doing, but you have to be careful. When solving for a variable, there is a specific order that must be followed. And it's the opposite of PERMDAS. We have it drilled into us. We do parentheses, exponents, radicals, multiply, divide, add, subtract in that order. But when we're doing the opposite operations, we have to go the opposite direction. So the first thing we do is the adding or subtracting. Then we do the multiplying or dividing. So first we do adding and subtracting, then we multiply or divide. We have to work backwards because we are undoing the equation. And so I need you to stop and pay attention, please. This is a little bit new for us. The math that we're doing is the same, but the order that we have to do it is what is new, and I truly need us all to pay attention. So since we're undoing the equation, we're doing the opposite operations. We have to do the opposite of PERMDAS. And we're starting at the end with the AS. So we're basically doing SADMREP. Okay? So we're going backwards. Instead of doing PERMDAS, we're doing SADMREP. All right, so when solving for any variable, you plug your solution in to the equation at the end to double check to make sure you did it correctly. So we're going to be solving for n. Once we get n, we put that value in for our n, and we would do 5 times it plus 7 and make sure that it equals 32. So we're going to practice a few of these, including the equation above. We're going to show our work that we are doing our opposite operations and show that you are checking your work, checking your answer. So let's see how that's going to look for our example up top. 5n plus 7 equals 32. If we are doing SAD/MREP, if we're doing PERMDAS backwards, what is the first thing I'm going to do? What's my first step, Aiden H? Yes, what am I going to subtract? So remember, we're doing the opposite. So what, if we're subtracting, that means, so we have 5n plus 7. We know the first thing we have to do is subtract because we have a plus. So what is it plus what? It says plus 7, so we have to do the opposite, which is minus 7. So 7 minus 7 gives me my 0, so I get 5n. 32 minus 7 is 25. Now what do? What's my next step? I want n by itself. James.
You can divide 25 by 10.
Why 10?
25 divided by 5, right?
By 5. I thought you said by 10. Did I hear you wrong?
I might have said
Okay.
that.
So we know that 5n means 5 times n. So we want to do the opposite, and we're going to divide both sides by 5. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. So we just have to write n because 1 times n is n. 25 divided by 5 is 5. So now I have what n equals. Am I done? What does my last step have to be, Gigi? I have to check my answer. Did I do my math correctly? So I'm going to come back up here. I've got 5 for n. I'm going to put my 5 plus 7 equals 32. And I have to see if that's true. 5 times 5 is 25 plus 7 equals 32. And yep, 25 plus 7 is 32 equals 32. So when you check your answer, you need to work it through. Does my variable amount make it a true statement? If n equals 5, is it 32 equals 32? Super easy to do simple mistakes with our math, to multiply instead of dividing by mistake. So if you check your answer like you're supposed to, you'll catch that. And then you go back to, because we're supposed to show our work, and you can see where you went wrong. So let's do a couple more together. I'm going to erase this and scroll up so we can make sure we understand how to do the 2 steps. Oh.
That's what I just put my...
I didn't realize it was the first one here. So we subtracted by 7. So we got 5n equals 25. Then we divided by 5. And we got n equals 5. Then we put it back in. And we did our math using PERMDAS going the right way. And we got 32 equals 32. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to circle the correct answer, n equals 5. Because when we show all of our work, we have lots of writing. We want to go back and circle your final answer so it's easy to see. Let's look at our next one. 2n plus 17 equals 25. What is my first step? Jillian.
Subtract 17 from 17.
Because we know doing SAD/MREP, I have to subtract the right number. Doing SAD/MREP, I have to do my adding or subtracting first. So if I'm adding 17, the opposite is subtracting 17. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to my other side. 17 minus 17 is 0. So now I have 2n And then I have 25 minus 17 is 8. So I have 2n equals 8. Now in SADMERP, we did subtraction, adding. Then we do dividing, multiplying. So what is my second step, Aiden?
8 divided by 2.
I'm going to divide each side by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so I have just n. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Am I done?
No.
What do I have to do, Aiden?
You do 4 times.
What am I going to do with my 4 variable? I'm going to plug it into the equation, right? So I'm going to check my answer, and for that n, I'm going to put in my 4 and see if I get a true statement. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 17 equals 25. 8 plus 17 is 25 equals 25. Yep, I'm going to circle it. It is true. 25 equals 25. So n must be 4. Let's do this one down here. N over 4 plus 13 equals 15. What is my first step? Nolan. Remember, if we are doing SADMERP,
You do the opposite.
our first thing that we have to do is our subtracting or adding. So what is the opposite operation I'm going to do, Nolan? It is adding already. We have plus 13, so I'm going to subtract. So if we are adding, we have to subtract. So 13 minus 13 is 0. So I have n divided by 4 equals 15 minus 13, which is 2. What is my second step? If I'm looking at SADMERP, my second step will be doing the dividing or multiplying. Gigi. Multiplying what? By what number? By 4. Because that fraction bar means I'm dividing by 4. So I'm going to multiply by 4. 4n divided by 4 is 1n. 2 times 4 is 8. Because we had 4 times n is 4n. And then I divide it by 4. Those 4's cancel out. So I multiplied by 4, multiplied by 4. So let's check it. I'm going to put 8 in for my n. Eight divided by 4 is 2. Plus that 13 equals 15. 2 plus 13 is 15. 15 equals 15. That is a true statement. Let's do our next one. N over 5 minus 20 equals 40. What is our first step? This one. N over 5 minus 20 equals 40. First step, Olivia. Yeah, because I know my first step is doing the subtraction or addition. So I'm going to look down here and I'm going to say, oh, I'm subtracting, so I have to do the opposite. I'm going to add 20 to both sides. So I have n over 5, 20 plus negative 20 plus a positive 20 is 0. Right? Negative. Oh, let's look at that. Shh. I have subtracting 20 is the same thing as negative 20 plus 20. I have a subtracting 20. It's the same as saying minus 20. Negative 20. So what I have here is I have minus 20 plus 20. Minus 20 plus 20 gives me my 0. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm left with just n over 5, and 40 plus 20 is 60. What is my second step? I think you know it, JT.
Division.
So what we're doing right here is division. What is the opposite operation?
Multiplication.
Multiplying. So if I divide by 5, my opposite is times 5 times 5. 5 times n is 5n. 5n divided by this 5 cancels out. So now I have 60 times 5, which is 300. So I need to go and see, does that equal the right answer? So 300 over 5 minus 20 equals 40. 300 divided by 5 is 60 minus 20 equals 40. 60 minus 20 is 40. 40 equals 40. I have a true statement. James.
Why did you X out the n, like n over 5, and just use the 5? Instead of like 60 times n over 5. Why did you not use the n when you did 60 times 5?
I have the n right here.
No, when you did like 60 times 5.
60 times 5.
Shouldn't you add the fraction?
So if I have n over 5 and I multiply that by 5, what is 5 times n over 5? So we're doing our multiplication. We're going to make it into 2 fractions. So we get 5n over 5. Now, if I simplify it, what can I divide out of 5n that I can divide out of 5? I can divide a 5 out. So if I divide a 5 out of both of them, I'm left with just n.
Oh, okay.
So it looks kind of confusing when we say we're timesing by 5 and then we divide by 5, and it's a what is going on? This is the actual math that is happening. We're saying 5 times n is 5n, and then we have that bar there, so we're dividing it by 5. So then we simplify it by dividing the 5 out of both. So by simplifying it, we are left with just n. I am recording. We don't use passes while I'm recording. Any other questions on how we solve this one? It's really important that we understand the reason why it works. Sometimes I just go a little too fast because I've been doing this math so much that I forget we need to see every little step. Okay? But you need to understand why it works so you know what it is that you're doing. Do we want to do another one together, or are you ready to work on your own? Okay, let's do another one together. Let's do this next one. N over 6 minus 4 equals 7. What is my first step, Isabel?
Add 4.
I'm going to add 4 because I'm subtracting 4. And we know in SADMERP, subtracting and adding comes first. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Minus 4 plus 4 equals 0. So I have n over 6 equals 7 plus 4 is 11. What is my second step? Gigi. Times 6, because I'm dividing by 6. My opposite is multiplying by 6. So if I multiply by 6 and then I have to divide by 6, I'm left with that n because I simplify out that 6. So I just have n. 11 times 6 is 66. So now I'm going to take my n and put it into my equation. 66 over 6 minus 4 equals 7. 66 divided by 6 is 11. Minus 4 equals 7. 11 minus 4 is 7 equals 7. So that is a correct true statement. How are we feeling about our 2 steps? Show me your thumbs. Okay. Some of us are feeling good. Some of us are still not. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up the table up front here. So if you're one of my friends that are shaky or no, you're going to come to the front table. If you're one of my friends that are ready to go, you have this page. And I'm still talking, friends, and recording. So we have this page and our next page of practice work. Oops. So we do have our second page of practice work. It's the same thing. We are checking our answer, doing the same steps. Then we have our writing our 2-step equations. For my friends at home, we hope you are well. We hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.